My one actually does touch on what you've all tried to talk about. But the thing is, you all talked around it. So I have picked an MIBR topic for my bad point. And it's just this. Everyone will know I actually do like most of the players in this team. I think almost every player can be like individually justified. I do think, though, when you look at the bigger picture, I've always said I'm still not quite satisfied with like the calling looks a little bit off sometimes. By the way, they're another team where they have a really, really shaky map pool. Like they have some maps they can be really good on, but they're not the team that you almost never see a series of 3 maps where on all 3 maps they can perform. And so essentially what I've put as my bad point is MIBR fragility. Because, bro, I've said this online, this is one of the hardest teams in the game to bet on. When I talk about the other ones that are hard to bet on, like 3D Max and Pain, that's because those teams are like, half a team or they shouldn't be winning that. This team, when I see them win the big games, they pop off. I'm like that conversation before, like, holy fuck, there's so much talent in Brazil, and like they can just sort of make it work, and this is fucking awesome, and let's get all these guys together, and then they'll have a game against almost anyone. Then they'll just have a series where they're just fucking nothing, and it's like that fragility makes it so hard to fully get on board, especially because, by the way, the reason why this team of all the teams should be the one you want to get there is they have the automatic best marketing. Made in Brazil is the best possible name you could ever have, and it's got all the history. Everyone wants that team to succeed. So I can say I don't even dislike anyone on the team. I've always thought Drop was underrated. Seems like he's doing a decent enough job transition, but something's missing. There's some like little X factor, some secret sauce they haven't got in that team where I don't get it, because when I look on paper, I think it should be better than this.
They should be, and obviously, I think one of the most exciting pieces of the team is Insani, who was like first busting out and being exciting like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it's like we still just have him in the situation where it's languishing. So, it ties in so well to the other point, as where it's just like this team should be way better. I actually have no more words to talk about with Brazilian teams where it's like you should be doing better, and I don't know how it's always so inconsistent up and down.
So I was following them pretty closely at the end of last year because I was super hyped about the Lucauzi move, but then it feels like there's been a bad use of the off season for them because I think the analogy we've given in the past for like how you keep up your map pool is that you're that circus performer that's spinning plates on all of those different sticks, and if you have one that's going really fast, you might focus on it a little less, and then you're going to pick up the ones that are slowing down quite a bit. And unfortunately for MIBR, at the end of last year, I really thought that their Nuke, their Ancient, their Inferno, all of those were really, really good. Primarily, I'd say they leaned on Nuke the most. But then this year, they actually haven't beaten any of top teams on Nuke. They're actually 0-5 against Astralis, Wildcard, Imperial, 3D Max, FlyQuest. And it used to be these really poppy plays where they would just basically didn't even really default like other teams. They almost just did like single flash, Lucauzi, Insani double entry pack, and it was just like, boom, you're gonna lose. You're gonna die because that's just like a super high firepower entry pack. And it's kind of become sort of one-dimensional, and I would say predictable to other teams that if you can stop those kinds of plays or just even giving them the space and then playing a later stage of the round, if you don't give them the kill, that might be just as good as not dying, really. Or, well, that is what not dying is, but you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like as good as getting a kill as just giving them the space and not dying. Like, so I think teams have now kind of figured that part out of their game, and instead this year, they've gotten a little bit better at a few, like their problem map last year was Mirage. Their problem map was absolutely Mirage, and now they're like beating Astralis on it. They're actually kind of, or they're taking Astralis to overtime, but they beat Astralis on it at Kato, and so they're actually kind of like it's just they had too much that they had to work on in terms of their map pool, and I think that they just stopped caring about the maps they were quote unquote good at and then focused completely on the maps that they were bad at, and they just couldn't keep it up. And I think the main root of the issue is that's what happens when you have a rookie IGL. That's what happens when Drop is your in-game leader and you don't have a guy that's like been doing this forever that can always rely on his like if Kerrigan runs into a bad spot with FaZe, he might just pull a strat out of his ass. Like, you don't know what he's got cooking, and he's gonna just like come up with something that's like, oh, I know that this can work, this sort of formation can work. But Drop is just like, he's got like 3 starters per map, and if those don't work, then we're fucked. So yeah, I feel like they need a deeper playbook with a probably a more creative in-game leader.
And maybe that gets fixed over time. I think one other thing that would point to that kind of being an area where there can be improvement, not to be like hypercritical of Drop, because I think he's doing fine, but just improvement would be nice, would be the idea that like we watched Insani back at the major have that half against Navi that just gave him like the best of one victory, like just marching up Banana and destroying JL and whoever was there for defense each and every round. And then you just had Safe have this life game against Device. And it's like, I don't need those life games. I don't need those crazy peaks frequently, but like, can you just spread that out? Like, give me just an extra 10% on every game for the next month. I'd rather have that than this one crazy peak and a drop off. And I think that feels always to me when I see those kinds of crazy peaks, like it's going to happen with players, but also like a lack of consistency in how they're supposed to approach and how they feel in different situations within the tactics that doesn't let them hit that same peak consistently enough.
Also, if you just watch, bearing in mind, if you only look at the Wikipedia, you're going to see they went 1-3 at like not a crazy field. Bro, every single series could have been 3 maps or was winnable. Like they're almost never actually getting blasted as well. I agree with you as well, Mario. I do think one of the problems they had was when people didn't know them, they just tried to just like fucking win every duel. Whereas it's like, that's not even what CS has to be. It doesn't have to be that outside of your stars when they get the opening kills, etc. You don't have to peak all the time. So
I'd say also,
on that one.
By the way, that fucking MIBR loss to Imperial is really painful. That would have qualified them to the Blast Open Lisbon. And like that's a huge loss to a regional opponent as well. Like it's in Imperial, as I said, I haven't even like heard about them in like 3 months. So it's that's got to be a rough start to the year for MIBR for sure.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.